Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's online engineer interview with Daniel. My name's Scott, and I'm your host for today. Before we start, I'd just like to say thank you for signing up to this year's competition. For those of you who don't know, this is the Leaders Award competition, where we ask the question, if you were an engineer, what would you do? Pupils from the ages of 3 to 19 anywhere in the UK can join, and every single person who takes part receives a name and graded certificate from a real-life engineer, just like the ones we interview. So during these interviews, we're going to be speaking with loads of engineers who work on different projects that all show the wonderful, interesting and exciting things that happen when you work in engineering. Our special guest today is going to start with a 10-minute presentation, and then we're going to follow that up with some Q&A from the audience. If you do have any questions, feel free just to put them in the chat and we will pick them up after the presentation. But that's enough from me for now. I'm going to pass over to our special guest, Daniel.
Hi guys, sorry, I'll just quickly share my screen and then we can get started. Yeah, no, sorry, I think that's all good. So just a few quick things about me. So I'm originally from Spain. I was born in Madrid, and then due to my dad's job, he's sort of like a health and safety inspector. We had to move around a lot. So every time we went to a sort of like a job site, when the work ended, then we'd have to shift. So I started in Madrid, and then I moved to what I consider my hometown, which is called Arcos de la Frontera, which is the equivalent of, it's near Seville. It's probably a lot easier if I say that, but it's just down south in Spain. Very warm. Then after that, I moved to a place called Castellón, which is near Valencia. Then I went to Valencia, which is on the east side of Spain. And then I moved with my grandparents for a while in Alicante, near Benidorm, and then came to England. Well, Barrow-in-Furness is where I live, but I work in Ulverston, and that was 10 years and 5 months ago. So it's been quite a while, to be fair. I'm currently in my fourth year as a Mechanical Engineering Apprentice with Siemens Energy. I'm still in education, so it's split up into 4 years. I do compulsory education for the first 2 years, and then after that, it's sort of optional, which with an HNC, which in simpler terms is sort of like, very colloquially, half a degree. So it's kind of the next step to gain a degree if you fancy doing that. I did, so I put my name down for it. For the future, which is soon now, in a year's time, I'll be out of my time, so I get to decide what to do with my life. I'll be hopefully moving overseas, not maybe doing sort of like this engineering, maybe going offshore or on site somewhere abroad. I can obviously, I really fancy going to South America, sort of like Mexico area. But again, I'll take it a month at a time instead of planning my future. I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow, so I can't really say for certain where I end up in the future. But yeah, they're just some things about me. So these are some pictures of me in school and college. So when I was, I don't know if you see my cursor, but yeah, sorry, yeah. So yeah, this picture here was when I was in Spain. Probably my last year in my school in Valencia, so I must have been around 8, maybe. I was a bit, don't know, I was a stickler for the rules, but there was always this one class called Valenciano, which is sort of like the language they speak in Valencia, and I wasn't I wasn't keen on it, let's say, and I didn't think it was very useful, so I didn't particularly behave very well just in that classroom until I got sent to the vice principal's office, and then he told me to sort my act out, and then from there on I was a good shoes, as you say in England, if you will. This one is when I was in Barrow-in-Furness, St Bernard's Catholic High School. I'm just there, look like a sort of like a baby doll. But yeah, in school I did resistant materials, DT I think it's called. It's a technology class. Sort of like you build things with wood. So you build like a sort of like a pen box for, it could be for anyone. I did mine for my granddad. And then I did a phone case. It was sort of like that. Just wood on both sides, some acrylic, which is just plastic, just so you can put your phone there. And then for my GCSEs, I made sort of like a big box that stores my Xbox and my games. So that's when I started to get into engineering as I got older, if that makes sense. I did some when I was little with my granddad, just built like cars in his den, or whatever whatever you call it. This one here is still in St Bernard's, but I was in year 10. You can't. It's not a great picture. I didn't have many, but that's just me laying down there. Again, it's just the same thing as I did. And then these two is me in sixth from college. That was an open day. I chose the sorry the classes that I took were Spanish. I mean, you have to, don't you? Travel and tourism and geology. At first, I wanted to go to university to do geology, and it was. I've got to say, if it's a very interesting subject, and it is sort of science engineering, even if some say it's not, but it really is. But and it was extremely hard subject, but again, it was interesting, so I didn't really mind. But then I found out what apprenticeships were, which isn't really a big thing in Spain. And then I got told I could get job experience while getting paid, and I thought, well, it's a win-win for me. So then I thought, you know what, I like working with my hands. I like engineering from my resume and my times building cars with my granddad. So um, I applied for jobs, and then if I didn't get any, I worked in Tesco for a year and 8 months, and that's when I just went on courses trying to build myself up, my CV, my CV, and in the end, I managed to get into Siemens, and yeah, just working here day in day out, doing engineering things that I'll expand upon as we get on. Oh, come on, no, there we go. So these are pictures of me in work. These two here these were when I was in Tesco. That's when I started. That was a long time ago. And then this one, it was sort of like a World Cultural Day in Tesco, and that year was Mexican food. So obviously you get the offers Mexican food. You can sort of see I don't know, it might say Fiesta or something. I can't really see because I'm in the way. So all my department and some of the others as well, wore ponchos and sombreros. I've already got the mustache already, so it was cheaper for me. But yeah, that's what I was doing while I was trying to get an apprenticeship in engineering. And then these three here, this one was at a local STEM event that we host in Barrow. This is Mike. He does a lot for Siemens in regards to STEM. And that's where we had sort of three games, experiments, practices. And then we had loads of school kids come around, and then we just teach them the importance of science and technology in a fun way that isn't sort of like sat in a classroom with a whiteboard. They just get to see what happens, and then we encourage them to try and figure out what happens for themselves. So it's sort of like an interactive learning and also co-op in a way. And you do get quite a few of them that know more than you do, and you're like, do you know what, mate? Fair play. Um, this one was a summer project that we did for work. So we had to rebuild this boat. So all we got was all the pieces just scattered about, sort of like a puzzle, if you will. We had no instructions. All we had was some very bad pictures. So we just had to go there, and then there was a lot of. I mostly work with metal work, but that was wood, so I just used drills and stuff. So it's still engineering and fitting, and then we had to. Some of the wood was, I don't know how, but charred, very burnt. Some was just decayed, so we had to sort of work our way around, buy some um, extra wood from just around the local place just to try and fix it up. And it's now on display in the Ulverston area, just by the canal. You can't really see it, but it's called the Nance boat. It was used years ago around this area, and it's just got history and all things about the boat. And then lastly, this is the Primary Engineer Award ceremony, hosted in Kendal. I want to say June time, but it's quite a while. So I was involved. It's actually I didn't know about this. Like a year ago, I didn't know about this enterprise, I was involved in the judging scheme where loads of kids from loads of schools sent in their designs for what they thought the world could benefit of. It could be anything. It doesn't matter if it technology we couldn't do it. It was just using your minds just to get your points across, and there were some absolutely fantastic things. I wouldn't have thought about that at their age. I was too busy doing other things, playing on my Nintendo. But it is what it is. So now I'm just going to talk about some things that I work with, and then put them in simpler terms. So first we've got Christmas trees. It's nearly Halloween, which means it's automatically nearly Christmas time. So this is very fitting. So obviously we all know what a Christmas tree looks like. It's just this here, an artificial one, real one. It's a tree is a tree. This here is what a Christmas tree in subsea looked like originally. So this would be placed at the bottom of the ocean, and then we'll have loads of connectors, cables, wires just coming off it. I've got a picture on the next slide, and then it just goes from one small piece to just a vast majority of sort of electrical um, mountings, appliances, if you will, at the bottom of the ocean that help to extract the oil and gas. And then this is obviously our technology is increasing and developing. So this is what it looks like now, which doesn't look anything alike. That looks more like a Christmas tree. It just looks like a cross, and it's green as well. While that's just orange, so it doesn't really look like a Christmas tree. But that term stuck, which is a weird term to use, but it is what it is. This is sort of the part two. This is what a Christmas tree would look like. That's from Amazon, to be fair. I don't have that on, but that's just a tree with the lights coming off it, and then it's a small resemblance, but you can kind of see where it's coming from. So the Christmas tree will be around here, and then there you got everything. You've got water injection here to help get rid of the oil that's stuck on the edge of the bedrock. Just sort of because obviously it's warm, it'll mix it up, and then once it gets extracted up, you can divide the oil and water because it's got different densities. But yeah, that is Christmas trees in subsea for you all. The next one is insulation resistance. This is a test I carry out on a daily, and it's probably the fundamentals of Siemens Energy subsea connectors. So in easy terms, so this it comes from Ohm's law. This is something that you'd be doing in physics when you're, I don't know, year 7 onwards. I think it's again been a long time. It's sort of, you can imagine a hose pipe. If you turn it up to the if you turn the water on and then you see the water flowing, all insulation resistance is trying to do is test that insulation, which is the hose pipe itself. And if there are any like gaps in it, that's when the electricity can just escape and just go. So it's not, if that happens, it just means you need a new cable because it's not doing its job properly. Uh, Obviously, you want a wire or a cable to conduct everything it can just to do its job. And then an example of this that we all use at home is a plug and a cable that you plug into the wall. That could be, I don't know, for your radio, your TV, your iPad, Xbox. It can be whatever you want. So yeah, the insulation also, apart from keeping the electricity in, it helps you keep safe because it's an insulator. So if you've got, it depends on the cable. It could be plastic or rubber. Ideally rubber. If that means if you touch it, you can't get electrocuted. It's sort of like a safety barrier. So if you plug in your iPad at home and then touch the white cable or whatever color it is, you won't get electrocuted. So you won't get any injuries or get hurt at all. And then these are sort of examples of what I make on a daily basis. I think I've got another picture later on, but you can see there's a hose there, and then inside there's wire. So it's pretty much just the same, but on a bigger scale. But yeah, that's just a quick lesson on insulation resistance. And the last thing, procedures. So obviously I get many things that I don't know how to build. So people in the offices upstairs, they design them and they know how they all work. So they write a procedure, which is sort of instructions, just so obviously I can get the job built. I couldn't put any on because of restrictions and all of that stuff, but I made my own. Oh, it's not really great. Anyways, I made a procedure on how to build a basic table. So for example, you can't really see it, it's a bit blurry. It shouldn't be blurry, by the way. But it just says put piece A on the floor upside down. I can't really read the rest, but you get sort of a step or an instruction. You get a picture next to it, so you can sort of like orientate it. So for example, if I say turn this sideways, oh, okay, I know it's that side. And then it says the next step is to put the feet in, the legs of the thing, of the table, so you know where to put them. It's sort of like a step by step. There's pictures, so you know what's happening. If it's all words, then you kind of just think, oh, that looks so boring. I don't want to do that. So we just add the pictures just to add the visual representation of how to. It's pretty much just to help, really. And there's an example. I'm an avid Lego fan. I build. There's cars, stadiums, castles, whatever. Just the bigger the better, really. And then this is an example of the engine. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. That's the example from a Ferrari Daytona, which is just a Ferrari car. That's the engine. So I've got the PDF version from that. So that's really what Lego looks like these days. So it's changed from back in the day, even though the difficulty is obviously different in these pictures. But you can see, so then they've got the blue pieces and then arrows indicating where they're going. So that's kind of what I was trying to get across with my table, my table procedure. So that's just how it is for me. So they'd say, get this metal work, orientate it, say this side, so you can see the writing on it. Then you can put some screws, put the next piece in. It's sort of like a step by step. And then it also explains how to do the testing, like the insulation resistance that I talked about in the previous slide. And then lastly, because I know it's a big thing these days, and I have been asked about this in a careers fair where someone said to me, oh, what are your thoughts on the ethics of what you're doing? And I did say, I mean, is my job. I can't change it. But so my job is building a connector that goes subsea to extract oil and gas, which goes obviously into the houses, cars, and then also making many things. As you can see here, oil and gas, you can make many things. So these are sort of examples of connectors that we make that help extract. Some can be like an HDMI cable that leads that transmits data from the bottom where it's connected to the top to the oil rig. Some could be an electric plug that conducts electricity from point A to point B. Could be, I don't know, a kilometer, for example. So that'd be like 5,000 volts going through the sort of this insert and then into the cable that's been connected, and then you can get electricity from point A to point B. Currently, we've sort of like bought out or joined with Siemens Gamesa. It's there's some in England, I think, but it's mostly sort of Spain area. It's, as you can see, the windmills. So we're trying to steer away from the oil and gas and adapt our connectors to fit onto the windmills. Obviously, it's a lot cleaner, air's free as well. It just happens, it's just the weather. And then we're also going towards hydrogen. So, for example, the Ulverston branch is oil and gas, Aberdeen's oil and gas, and then you've got Manchester, Lincoln, and another place that I've forgotten about. They do hydrogen work and also airplane engines as well. I saw on LinkedIn that in Vienna they're trying to make a power plant from hydrogen. So they'll be mixing gases and hydrogen to make things run, which is good in the respect of it's not as dirty, it doesn't get rid of CO2 into the atmosphere. So it's better for the world and it'll be more efficient as well. But yeah, that's sort of a brief insight to what I do and what company does.
We're now going to open up to questions from the audience. So if anyone's out there has any questions for Daniel, please type them in the chat. I've got a question to start with, though. What is it that you love most about your job?
Mine, I think it's seeing. So I get like a job box full of loads of small pieces. Sort of like if you open the Lego bag and you've got every single piece gone. I like how you can go from nothing to everything, and you just build it with your own hands. So you can see how it progresses. It's a weird concept, but I prefer to watch it. So I prefer to build it with my own hands rather than watch it. So if you gave me, again, Lego, a car, I'd rather build it myself than watch someone do it for me because it's not
Yeah.
the same. But I like seeing how it just goes. It's sort of like them videos where you start with nothing and then you fast forward and then everyone's like working very quick and they just have a house all of a sudden. Yeah, it's sort of like that.
That is pretty cool. It must be pretty cool to just literally get a box and then be able to be part of the process to having a completed thing.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of questions coming in now, and the first one is from Mrs. Benson. Mrs. Benson asks, why are apprenticeships not as much of a thing in Spain? You mentioned that it wasn't something you were exposed to much when you lived in Spain, but you learned about it here. Do you know why that is?
No, I don't know. My mum told me it was because, so in Spain, I thought the stereotype, if you will, is school, college, uni, work, and that's what I thought it was. And then I learned that there are apprenticeships, but they're not paid, and that isn't the
Right, okay.
problem itself. But to get an apprenticeship, you need the experience, but you don't have the experience, which is why you want one. So it's a vicious cycle. And you're not going to get anywhere. It's just sort of how things run over there. But um, I mean, I'm not saying it's easy to get here, but
Yeah, it's
but it's
different.
sort of a different sort of culture. But um,
Yeah.
yeah, and I've told my friends over about what I do, and I get paid. I go to college and they pay me, and they look at me like, "Are you okay? Are you dreaming?" And I was like, "Nah, I'm being genuinely serious. It is a thing."
Oh man, it sounds great. We've got another question actually here from Shire Newton Primary School. You mentioned you love getting this box of stuff, and then by the end of it, you've been in the
Mhm.
process of building it. What's been your favourite thing to build at work?
So it's sort of called a MUTU, a mobile umbilical transportation unit. So how do I describe this? It's sort of so you get loads of boxes, and then you make this massive metal box to sort of got holes in it to allow a harness and a big holes, maybe that big,
Wow.
to go in. So I just liked building that. It was nice and simple. You just had 3 bits, some screws, and then some bits on the inside, sort of like a big Kinder egg ish. And then sorry, my mind went blank. Yeah, I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So building this mobile transportation unit.
Yeah, and then you got like we've got plugs and receptacles. I haven't got any with me,
That's
but a
fine.
plug sort of like what goes into the receptacle is sort of like your plug on the wall. Your plug for your phone is a plug, and
Mhm.
then the receptacle will be what's on the wall. It's sort of like what's missing, and then you can make them. We just got like a massive cable, massive holes, put it in, and then terminate it on. I don't know. It was fun, and it was also like a long job. So
Yeah.
you wouldn't be doing like 5 a day. It'd be like one every week or so, depending on how things
Oh
going.
wow.
But
So again, seeing it at the start and at the finish, and knowing you were the one to build it must be pretty cool. And
yeah,
it's another question we've got from Mrs. Benson. You mentioned that something like this a couple of times with what we use the electricity for that Siemens Energy work with. But Mrs. Benson asks, how does your work impact our lives?
right. Well, good question. Um, so it impacts it simply because work side of it, we help out sort of like BP, Shell, and we give them the means of extracting the petrol that we need for the cars at the moment. And obviously, you've got the Teslas coming in, electric cars, hybrids, but they're not really going to come into full effect
Mhm.
in I don't know how long it is. I don't. It's start at 2040, I think, or something like that. It's going to be no more diesel engines or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so that's in one way, and then another way is STEM wise. I like to go to careers fairs, so I get to chat to, I don't know, very small children. I did one on Thursday, and there was like full adults looking for a career change. So I sort of like trying to help them and get them involved in some way. Um, but yeah, sorry, yeah,
Yeah, but no,
that's how
it's
it is.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's helping us get the things that we need in order to work. And I think that's what's really interesting about your job is that before I had this conversation, I didn't know there was somebody that needed to do that. And then especially the Christmas tree, and you look at how much is sitting on the bottom of our oceans and how important it all
yeah.
is to making our day-to-day work. It's really important. We've got another question as well, just on
Mhm.
because obviously talking about taking something small and building it, being through the process. Another question from Shire Newton Primary. Do you find your job difficult?
I've got to say, I thought It would be when I was on my Outward Bound, which is a sort of a business trip to do team building. But then when I actually started, I sort of got in my own head, and I was like, do you know what? No, I couldn't do this exercise in Outward Bound. And I was like, oh, this is it. This is me finished. I haven't started. And then I got in, and it's not complicated at all. It's they take you through the whole. So they take you in. So when the parts come in, then you work on the little insert. This is like the first step of a connector. Then you test that bit. Then you put it into you put cables through. So you kind of get to see each step by step, and it's not really. It can be complicated, but you get like a mentor with you, and then you do the
Oh,
training
brilliant.
courses, and then if you do something wrong, it's not like, oh, that's the end of the job now. It's like, no, you can rework, and if not, we just get a scrap and replace. We just get a new one, really. But it's no, it seems hard, but it's not hard. That's why I say at the careers fairs, if they see like a connector that's really big, and they go, oh, I bet that's hard to build. I was like, nah, honestly, it's like Lego. It's really easy.
Brilliant. And since you've got the support as well, we do have time for a few more questions. If anyone's sitting on questions out there, please send them in. But I've got a question quickly, actually, because you talked about one day wanting to work in South America, places like Mexico. So, does working in engineering give you the chance to go and travel and work in different parts of the world?
Yes, I really think it does. My dad, he's health and safety at like uh, the Spanish Scottish power, if you will.
Yeah.
And he said that there's a lack of engineers everywhere, which is a shame, seeing as we need people to build things. So yeah, I think it does. Obviously, if there's engineers lacking in Brazil, then you go, oh, I'm an engineer. Why can't I go to Brazil? Go, apply, go. It'll be a great time.
Yeah, I just when you said that as well, I thought I've never been to South America. I wish I just had a skill that took me there. That'd be great. We've got another question because you mentioned your dad working in industry as well, your grandfather helping you with stuff when you were younger. Mrs. Benson asks, why did you choose your profession?
Um, I think so. Obviously, when I was a kid, you computers just started to get put in place, and I'm not particularly great. I'm great with iPads, but when there's a laptop, if it's like Excel, if it's just Excel, I don't like Excel at all. And it was like I never. It doesn't matter how many times you taught me it, I never got it. It just went in for this ear, and then you left through that one. But then when I did sort of like I got a piece of wood with my granddad and we sort of like carved it and sanded it into like say a triangle and then we put wheels on it. I was like, do you know what? That's sort of like empowering. Like me with my small hands is like, oh my god, I just built a car that can go down a hill or whatever. I thought it was pretty cool.
That is cool, yeah. Yeah, and that's from such a young age as well. Because you mentioned when you went to then school in England and you did DT and you realised I can do this again. So school must have been important as well.
Yes, it absolutely is. Yeah. Um, they say it isn't, but it's sort of some things you do in school don't seem relevant, but if you go into an actual job, you might, for example, do a job in engineering where you do a bit of chemistry and you think, oh, do you know, I did that with, I don't know, Miss Smith in chemistry at school. So it does all link. It really does, yeah.
It all comes back to it. Brilliant. Well, just look at the time now. I think we're going to pull this interview to a close. I just want to start by saying thank you so much for Daniel for sharing with us about what it is that he does at Siemens, and thank you everyone out there for watching. Because now it is your turn to come up with your own engineering ideas. As Daniel said, he actually helped grade and judge some of the ideas that were sent in last year, so he'll be looking out for yours this year. Because you've got to go away and answer the question: if you were an engineer, what would you do? Remember, once you've got your ideas, sit down to send them to us so that we can get our certificates sent out to you. And then we'll hopefully see you at the end of the school year at our award ceremonies and public exhibitions. But for now, I want to say thank you to everyone very much again. And a massive thank you to Daniel.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much, everyone.